Hello and welcome to the Calmcast, a time to feel calm and think clearly. I'm Claire Downham, the Queen of Calm, a transformational life coach. I was a burnt out head teacher who finally made the journey to calm after years of trying, and I want to prevent you from having to do the same. The Calmcast is a series of short explorations, gently guiding you back to your natural state, which is calm and clarity. Just listen like you would listen to music, with an open mind and curiosity. There's nothing else to do. Now let's relax into today's episode. So today's episode is called It's Easier Than You Think to Live in the Present Moment. And I had a real realization about this over the weekend. When I decided, I persuaded my other half to declutter or to tackle our attic. So I've lived in this house for 21 years, and I've been doing that thing that many people do. Just kept putting things in the attic. Just put that in the attic. Just put that in the attic. Now we've had a few goes at the attic over the years, and got rid of some stuff and car booted and charity shopped and tipped and all sorts of things. But it just seems to build up again. Now, hopefully starting today, I'm getting a new roof on my house, which I'm very excited about because I think it will create a bit more warmth and dryness in my house. It's a very old roof, so that's cool. So we decided I decided, I took him along for the ride, that it would be a good idea to tackle the attic, to have a good tidy up there, and then obviously dust sheet everything that remained in the attic. So I was really quite excited about this. I clearly need to get out more. I was quite excited about it all week and thinking about like getting up there and tackling it, interestingly. And then on Saturday morning, I put my head through the hatch of the attic, and I was greeted by a lot of stuff in which looked extremely chaotic and all over the place. And I immediately felt this heaviness, this I guess overwhelm, this sense that that's going to be my whole weekend. I wasn't going to do anything else at all but clamber about in the attic, moving boxes and getting things out and stuff. And it felt pretty awful. I felt like going, oh, sod it, let's go for a walk instead. Let's not just chuck some dust sheets over it and let's go for a walk. But luckily, because I have a sense now, more often than not, of how I work psychologically, I spotted it. I spotted that my head was taking me off into the future, taking me off into a story, taking me off into a really not very nice place. When really, in the real world, all that was me looking at some boxes in the attic or looking at some piles of stuff, not all in boxes, in the attic. And I spotted it because it came with a pretty awful feeling. It felt uncomfortable. It felt heavy. It didn't have, it didn't feel calm. I didn't feel clear-headed. I certainly didn't feel content about, it felt a bit stressful, overwhelmed, it made me feel stuck because I thought, I don't want to do it. It feels terrible. It looks terrible. It looks like it's going to be awful. And then there was my awareness of it, me noticing it, me spotting that it was happening. And in that space, there was a settling back down. There was a return to calm, because the uncomfortable feeling was letting me know that my thinking about that situation, not the situation itself, because that isn't where our feelings come from. But the situation was there. There was a thing, an attic full of stuff. But my head had gone into a massive story about it. And it's really interesting actually to observe that and see that generally, if we're feeling awful, well, not generally, always, our thinking is not in the present moment. We're somewhere else in our heads. Our bodies are in the present moment. The clever body is telling us, oi, your thinking's gone south. You're not in a good place. Your thinking's not in a good place. Not you're not in a good place, but your thinking's not in a good place. And our bodies are letting us know that all the time through the state of how we feel. It's really that simple. And in spotting it, there is an allowance of the system to reset. It's Eckhart Tolle calls it the witnessing presence, which I quite like, really, because in the moment when we see our ropey thinking, our future thinking, mine was particularly future thinking, but it can be past thinking too. When we see it in the moment, when we observe it, well, immediately we are detached from it. We can see that it's not us. And we do become that witnessing presence that Eckhart Tolle says. And he pretty much says, the minute you spot it, the minute you're aware that you're not in the present moment, you will naturally fall into the present moment. You can't not, because the thoughts of witness, the witnessing thoughts, the presence that is witnessing is in the present moment, observing this thinking about the future. So thinking about the future is still the thinking about the future. But as soon as we're observing that, as soon as we are the witnessing presence of that, it naturally resets us, because we're suddenly not thinking about the future. We're thinking, look, like not in a judgment, not in a, I shouldn't be thinking about the future way, but in a, I'm thinking about the future. Oh, that's why I feel terrible. And by us falling into that place of observation, we suddenly have a nicer experience of life. We're suddenly back in the present moment. We can't not be, because the witnessing presence can only be, well, it's called the witnessing presence, as Eckhart Tolle says, that observation can only be in the present moment. It's like if we're watching a movie and the movie is futuristic, well, we're just somebody observing somebody's story about the future, so we can be observing our own story about the future in exactly the same way. And that is just so freeing. And we are guided to do that by our system. We don't always realize we're receiving that guidance, but when you realize that your emotional state in that moment is not telling you about anything else but your state of mind, then you are being beautifully guided to see in the moment, I feel terribly anxious. If I feel anxious, if I feel that overwhelmed feeling, if I feel stuck or stressed, well, how wonderful, actually, to be guided to see that our state of mind's gone off. Just for that moment, like this is not about, there's a long-term story about you as a particular kind of person or any of that. It is just seeing it in the moment, seeing that our state of mind is wobbly at the moment. And then there's a natural resetting. And that means that none of us need, we might enjoy doing, but none of us need to be doing hours and hours of mindfulness training or meditation or affirmations or whatever else you think you need to do to get yourself into the present moment. And none of that is necessary, because there is this beautiful witnessing presence that we are. This is the truth of who we are. That noisy space in our heads, that's not the truth of who we are. And we naturally fall into that truth as soon as we spot it, as soon as we see in the moment, oh, my emotional state, letting me know about my thinking. Oh, there's my thinking. Now my thinking's past, because I'm not so attached to it. I'm not thinking it's me. I'm not thinking it's telling me something useful about the world. And that's potent, isn't it? Seeing that it's not telling us anything useful about the world, because I think sometimes that's why we hang on to our thinking, because we think if we churn it over enough, we're going to find the answer to the problem that we think we're perceiving as a problem, when actually the answer is never there anyway. It's never in our habitual noisy heads. So I hope that leaves you with a lovely feeling that there's so little to do. That's it for me, really. There's so little to do now. There was so much to do before, to try and be living in the present moment, when it's really only a breath away. It's just there all the time, waiting to be seen. So I hope that's helpful. Lots of love, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Thank you so much for listening. There's nothing to do now but bring some awareness to how this is working out in your life. Listen regularly to experience longer and longer periods of calm. This has been the Calmcast with Claire Downham, Queen of Calm. Take care and keep listening.